NIO delivered 8,132 vehicles in February 2024. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but I want to highlight this as well. The cumulative deliveries of NIO vehicles reached 467,781 as of the end of February 2024. The reason I highlight that, if you look down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see I've got the ticker running. And the third thing that I was looking at, and this was several years ago when I said this and sort of said, this is my big picture overview for this company, is I want to see first market awareness, the company becoming known globally, which that is still taking shape. Second, profitability. I think we'll get more teasers on that very soon from the company. But then third, BaaS, battery as a service. And the idea that I had was after NIO has 1 million sales, 1 million total cumulative vehicles and deliveries out there, what does the company look like? And then what does battery as a service and some of the other, pieces of the business, what does that all look like? So even at that stage several years ago, I was thinking in terms of big picture, long term. With that, now back to the point that I just made, the cumulative deliveries for NIO, not quite 468,000 so far. And I was not, when I came up with these three major growth phases, I did not know about, we didn't have any word that NIO was going to do sub brands. So I was just thinking of the NIO brand. Gives you an idea of my view, my lens, and the big picture overview that I've had and maintain. But now let's talk a little more short term. And I've got the post from ThinkerCar pulled up on the screen. We've got the year 2023 versus 2024. And the reason I did this, I wanted to do this kind of comparison January, February together, because Chinese New Year encompasses a couple of weeks and it sometimes carries over from January to February. This year it was all in February. And so what that meant to me is I expected lower delivery numbers in February this year versus last year, and then higher in January this year versus last year. And that's what we saw. The total and the comparison is last year, the first 2 months of the year, you had a total of almost 21,000 vehicles delivered by NIO. This year, a little over 18,000. Now, if you want to be in the bearish camp and be negative about this, then you could maybe make the argument, well, the numbers are down, therefore NIO sales are down, and that's just all that matters. If you want to be bullish and look at sort of the upside to this, well, I guess there's a big unknown, and that's the March delivery numbers will reflect the first 2024, the newest NIO models. So it's certainly possible that we'll see a bigger number in March. In other words, we may have to just come back here and check in on the first quarter once it's in the books, once March is done as well, because some folks may have just wanted to wait and get the newer model. I would understand that thinking, but that's just me. Drop it in the comments and let me know your thoughts. Now, a little bit more short-term stuff, because why not? It's fun. And this is Friday, March 1st, as I record this. But I'm still going to be tracking this through today, Friday, and then also into next week, because Tuesday, March 5th, before the market opens, NIO will be reporting their earnings, and they could surprise, and it could be a positive surprise, okay? Here's the question, though. Ted, what's up, buddy? He says, how much more can this stock be beaten down? And my response was, I'm watching options expiry Friday, right before earnings on Tuesday. With the low delivery number from February released Friday, things could get interesting. And I'll just kind of get direct to the point here. My thoughts with this is Citadel Securities. I've called Citadel a suspicious short in NIO for several years. I've been kind of usually passively referencing them, and sometimes more directly talking about them. They've gotten in trouble in a number of markets for doing things that they weren't supposed to do, or at least they've settled fines. And in one case, China actually kicked them out for several years and wouldn't even let them do business there. Now, they're also a market maker, Citadel is. And so that means they get access to all the options inflow on a weekly basis. So for example, if we see NIO and the stock price pinned in a certain range, basically not appearing to be allowed to move up, especially if there's low trade volume, I just wonder, it's sort of in the back of my mind, is there gamesmanship going on by this company, Citadel, that also has a short position in NIO? It's a fair question, and one that I've sort of always got in mind. But I'm also curious because, and I'm just going to go to the Citadel site here because I want to make this point. This is on the Citadel website. As the world's leading market maker, we leverage our vast experience and unparalleled resources. All right? This is like very, very big money, okay, to support the New York Stock Exchange's premier companies. There's one thing I want to point out. If we scroll down, I highlighted this as well. What sets us apart? This again from the Citadel Securities site. With a balance sheet several times larger than any competitor, we're the leading liquidity provider to the market. This is under financial strength. In other words, Citadel is just flexing openly about this. Now, this is a company that in the US has had a fine for, I think it was about $7 million, and that was with 5 years of issues. 5 years. Well, in a single year alone, the company made billions of dollars. So I guess, you know what? I'm just going to leave it at that. But we'll come back and talk more about that because it's sort of an ongoing, you know, repetitive, almost. I'm just going to keep these videos going, I think, and just kind of document this over the course of time because it started back in the fall 2021 when I first mentioned this in a video that Citadel, a suspicious short, was getting involved. And I was just kind of like, hey, heads up, this is something I want to have awareness of and make others aware of so that we can just see what happens. If you would have told me back then that the stock price for NIO was going to be lower at this point with the company fundamentally stronger than it's ever been, and yet the stock price trading at a lower point than what it was when I first heard about the company, I would have said you're crazy. But then I guess Citadel said themselves that they're big money. They're very big money. And so if they want to, and let's be clear, I'm not saying they do, I don't know, but I think it's a fair question to ask. If they want to mess with stock price for a company like NIO, is it outside of the realm of possibility that they could? And is it also outside of the realm of possibility to consider that as a market maker, if they see and have access to the information, the data that comes in on a weekly basis, and they know how many people are trading and where they're trading, and they might have a vested interest as a short to keep stock price action pinned or trading in a certain range, is that so unrealistic? So, unlikely? I don't know. These are just questions that I put out there as I think about them. And for the most part, most of the time I sit back and watch and study. But I also think it's interesting that I believe, were not allowed. They were kicked out of the Chinese market for 5 years and penalized or fined about $100 million in China. And so, again, it's just interesting, right? To have some of these little points and a sort of think about this and wonder what it might mean. Now, short term, what if the stock price goes lower with what's viewed as a negative earnings on Tuesday? Okay, it's possible, certainly possible. What if it surprises to the upside? What if big money has been buying in the background? And of course, we're probably not going to see that until after the fact, after they're done. And then the stock price would be allowed to go, because that would probably be when big money might want retail investors to chase or FOMO in after them. Again, this is just stuff I think about it. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of ranting a little bit, but all these things are sort of in my mind. Do we have the answers? No, of course not. But that's why I'm asking the questions. I like to have an increased awareness. It's on my Twitter page right there. Along with change and growth and learning, the first step is become aware. If I'm not aware of something, of course, I'm not going to see it. But if I become aware, and maybe there's some dots that can be connected, then I might have a better understanding of things. And then I can make whatever action, or take whatever action that I choose, whatever works for me. As an investor, I want to see other people win. And whether you're shorting NIO and making money, whether you're long NIO and waiting to make money, because it's hard to make money right now when it's been beaten down so much. I just want to see people win. But drop it in the comments. And sorry if I talked too long or too much, but I also plan on coming back with a video a little bit more specific and honed in on some of the things that Citadel, for example, has gotten in trouble for doing. Interestingly enough, outside of the US, they seem to get in a bit more trouble. And maybe that has nothing to do with the fact that they are a big player in the US market. Maybe it doesn't. But again, I'd like to hear from others. These are just some of my thoughts, the rantings of a madman, if you will. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And we'll see y'all again very soon.